I hired a personal detective. Over the past month, my spouse has changed a lot. Our quarrels have become more loud and strange. At the same time, she did not even seem to notice her changes. At that time, I had my own business for 2 years. It required development and my attention. So, without thinking twice, I hired a private investigator. My detective was not cheap, but worked at a high professional level. He managed to listen to her car and even the office. 2 days later, I overheard a conversation between her and a boyfriend. The guy is her colleague. It became clear from the conversation that they had already made love several times near work, and even in the workplace. Since her boyfriend really wanted to make love in bed, they decided to do it in a hotel. She told me on Friday night that she was going out with her girlfriends this Saturday. I already found out that the guy was also married and quickly contacted his wife. We met. I told her everything I knew. I told her if she needed evidence, then she should come with me on Saturday night. So we followed my wife parked in a rented car outside the bar. I didn't have to wait long. My wife got out of the car. Her boyfriend followed her. When we arrived, he was already waiting for her outside the bar. His wife is already crying. I tell her to be angry, not crying. Then I notice that they are heading for her car, which I bought for her. He gets behind the wheel. They arrive at an inexpensive hotel near the airport. I suggest my fellow traveler wait a little so they can undress and our trap works. 5 minutes later, I knock on the door and shout, "Open up, security." The lover comes to the door, opens it, dressed only in a towel. I say hello. I say that I am Katya's husband. I hit him in the face. He falls. Then I take my wife's lover and pull him out of the room, actually take him outside and throw him into a snowdrift. His wife beats in hysterics, beats and beats him. I go back to my room. My wife is sitting on the bed. She shakes and says, "You shouldn't have known." I get even more angry at these words. I pull her out of the room and drag her naked into the parking lot. I lift her in my arms. She shakes and confesses everything she's done. I tell her I will never forgive her. I quickly dial my cellular father's number. She shouts, "No, no, no." After explaining with his father simply says that she is disgusting to him and hangs up. She makes screams and moans. I tell her to dress. I give her clothes. She shakes and shakes. I call a taxi, put her in a car, and send her to her sister's house. I got into her car and her lover and his wife drove off in a rented car. I call her boss on Monday. After telling him about the actions of 2 of his employees, I said that their continued presence in his company would force me to sue him. I have good connections in the legal industry and in court. He kicked them both out. Then I packed my wife's belongings and drove them to my sister. It took her 2 more days to recover from the shock. She calls me and I refuse to talk to her. This has been going on for several weeks. Then her sister calls and says that she began to threaten suicide, stopped eating. I advised my sister to call an ambulance for her. As a result, my wife was placed under observation in a psychiatric hospital. They called me from the hospital and made an appointment. I went reluctantly. I was told she was fully aware of what she had done. And what I did shocked her. A psychiatrist said she had a severe nervous breakdown from everything she had experienced, including the humiliation I caused by making her confess while standing naked in a public space parking lot. The psychiatrist said it was extremely hard and partly caused her personality to split, but things should bounce back. I replied that before I took her, she treated me like garbage, and her character wasn't as good as she pretended to be. When I left, I was told they would call back next week. Our meeting took place next week. She looked depressed and looked like the shadow of a former woman. My wife used to be lush, with mouth-watering shapes, but in a few weeks she lost at least 25 kilograms. She said she tried to stop me learning about the cheating, but cheated on me because I worked too hard. I thought it was rubbish. I even remembered her own words from the time when she whined that she had no money, and I started working to make a living. And I told her she was constantly lying, that I couldn't be with her. I want to get a divorce. Her doctor nearly kicked me out of the ward. I was shouting at him and he was shouting at me, and suddenly she was like, okay, yeah. I was a selfish student at school. I wanted to feel romance, tension, and what treason is. Here I finally told a bit of the truth. Her psychotherapist is gone. I told her to think about what it was all for. Romance is long gone. Parents are offended by you. Work is lost. It will take a lot of effort and a lot of time to fix everything. She begged me not to leave her, said that she did not know what she would do without me, but I was silent. I still interacted with that guy's wife. They still lived under the same roof. I suggested she meet, offered to drink wine together. She replied that she was a married woman. I said that technically I am also married, and the same circumstances do not prevent our spouses from having fun. Why can something stop us from doing the same after that? So we met. After a banal conversation, I bowed and jokingly said they probably wouldn't mind if we became lovers too. I expected a polite rejection. To my surprise, she smiled and said, "Don't take me to this lousy hotel." We booked a very good room and spent the next 3 days getting to know each other. After this became known to her husband, he almost had an attack of apoplexy. She laughed and told him my bolt was so much bigger than his, and I made her satisfy her wishes many times. This bastard had the audacity to call my wife's sister and demand that I leave his wife alone. My sister told my wife about this, and she said that she deserved it. Finally, the anger subsided. I got enough revenge. For about a year I met with other women, but did nothing about the divorce. My wife and I met for coffee to discuss ending the relationship. However, something incomprehensible happened to me, and we started dating again. Another year later, after a damn long therapy, we again began to live as husband and wife. As a psychologist, I worry about your wife's mental health and general well-being. But if you are together, then everything is in order. This is rare. Which parent will give up their child and side with a man in personal conflict? It seems that your spouse never had a normal support system in the family. This does not justify her treason at all. Believe me, I know very well how devastating treason can be. It is cruel to drive your naked wife out of the room in the cold in January, and if you consider that this is a public place, then it is inhumane. This is a very serious psychological trauma for her. I hope she survives it and never unconsciously tries to get revenge on you for it. Neither women nor men forget the public humiliation.